Canucks take the opener of the Calder Cup Final in a wild double overtime thriller in Charlotte. So much to talk about. Let's get into it. This is Rink Wide. And we welcome you inside the Rink Wide Studios on a Friday night that sees the Abbotsford Canucks need double overtime to open the Calder Cup Final with an incredible 4-3 victory over the Charlotte Checkers. They won when it looked like they had lost, when they were outplayed badly in overtime, but put a puck on net. You never know what's going to happen. Danila Klimovich, the second double overtime winner of these playoffs. He's got 3 postseason goals, and 2 of them have settled games in double overtime. So he knows his role on this hockey club, and Abby steals back home ice advantage. They take a 1-0 lead in this best of 7 with game 2 set for Sunday afternoon. I'm Jeff Patterson. He's Tyson Cole. This is Rink Wide, the Abbotsford playoff edition. We're ramping things up here because this is the final series. Abbotsford now, 3 wins away from hoisting the Calder Cup. Rink Wide brought to you in part by Bet365. And while we're focused on the AHL playoffs, Bet365 wants you to get in on the action on the Stanley Cup Final. And there's still time at Bet365. They've got you from game props to player props, totals and the money line, whatever your bet. It's never ordinary at Bet365. Download the app, get in on the game. An official partner of the Stanley Cup playoffs, must be 19 or older. Now, Tyson and I are going to break this down. Dave Hall from Canucks Army, he's going to stop by as he always does here on Rink Wide. We want your thoughts and contributions as well. This game was streamed for free, so you had a chance to watch it without bucking up, but I'm thinking pretty good for business. I think some people may subscribe for the remainder of this series. I can't promise that all the games are going to look like this one, but what an incredible night of hockey with twists and turns for days. We'll try to cover it all off here, but we want to hear from you. And this is a fully interactive program, as you probably know by now. So your thoughts are welcome in the YouTube live chat. And, of course, if you want your thoughts or your questions, comments to go right to the top of the queue, hit us up with a Super Chat. Our Super Chat charity partner this season, the BC Mental Health Foundation, changing the face of mental health and addiction by supporting breakthroughs in care, public understanding, research, and knowledge exchange. 4-3 Abbotsford over Charlotte. I think I'm going to go for a long walk here. Tyson, you take over. What a night of hockey. Just incredible storylines, as I said, for days.
Absolutely. This is an instant classic right away. I mean, just overtime if you watch it. But first period, second period, didn't look like the Canucks had much life. But, oh, man, I can't get over that overtime. There wasn't a lot to talk about in that first one. They weren't playing their best hockey, but there's a lot of storylines in that second overtime.
Abbotsford Canucks trailed 3-1, and it looked at 3-1 like Charlotte maybe putting the pedal down and running away and hiding from this Abbotsford team. If you needed a turning point, and again, there were about 10 of them in this game, but how about Nate Smith scoring 22 seconds after former Vancouver Giant Justin Sordoff scored to extend that Charlotte lead? It was 2-1 after 1, with Charlotte scoring a buzzer beater, like literally 0.6 of a second left in the first period, and you thought, that might be tough to respond to and come back from if you're Abbotsford. And then Charlotte makes it a 3-1 hockey game, and I thought, okay, hey, maybe it's not Abbotsford's night. This is a Charlotte team that was on an 8-game win streak, had come off back-to-back sweeps in the previous rounds, and they were starting to flex their muscle a little bit. And so for Nate Smith to score on a breakaway just 22 seconds later, again, get Abby within striking distance. And who knew at that point that Artur Silovs was going to play superhero again? Didn't see the cape out of the bottom of his jersey for the early part of the hockey game. But the sort of goal was the last goal that he would let in. Sort of. Again, you've probably seen it on social, but if you're just coming to it, one of the craziest plays I've ever seen. I've been covering hockey for 3 decades now and have seen a lot of things through the years. I have never seen a face-off with a goaltender not ready, not even facing the play. And as we show the replay, Charlotte thought it had won. And, I mean, in the moment, how can you blame them? Puck goes in the net. Generally, that's game over.
Red light goes on.
Red light went
everybody,
on.
crowd's cheering. Everybody's happy. Game over.
Well, not everybody was happy. The Canucks, they weren't. And I suppose to the credit of the officials, again, as we watch the replay on the live stream, the one referee on the goal line, like the linesman is focused on the face-off. His view, I guess, a little bit blocked by the players. He's trying to get them lined up. So, should he have dropped the puck? Probably not, but I actually don't blame him so much. The referee that's standing 10 feet to the left of the net, you got to whistle. Just give it a quick little blow there and, hey, just heads up. Goalie's not ready. Wait a second. Instead, they dropped the puck. I think it was Ty Mueller that pulled it right back.
Great face-off win.
It was a great face-off win. And so, celebration was on. You saw Charlotte poured off the bench. They thought they had won. And then the officials huddled, and I think they realized the errors of their way. And, that's a gutsy call. In the building of the team that thinks it's won, and you say, no, play on. And play on they did. And then a puck over the glass penalty. After Abbotsford had to kill off 2 power plays for Charlotte in the first overtime. Again, Artur Silov's sensational. The shots in overtime were 21-11 in Charlotte's favor. And yet, in the end, it's Danila Klimovich midway through the second overtime on the power play. Max Sasson getting the other assist there. Klimovich with his third of the playoffs. And that's the winner. Abby takes game 1 of this series up 1-0 now, after the 4-3 double overtime victory. We do have a super chat. Hugo Mugo has been remarkably consistent. Says the Clem Reaper again. Welcome back, J-Pat. Artie with some big saves. Roller coaster of a game. Can't wait for the rest of the series. And thanks for the show. And thanks to Hugo Mugo, who has been remarkably consistent here. Almost as consistent as Artur Silov. So these playoffs coming through with the super chat, setting the tone for the program. So we want more of those. And we want to hear from you. And again, just going through the chat here, we'll try to pick off some of the best comments as we work our way through here. Quick scoring recap, though, and then we'll get to Dave Hall and get his thoughts on this one. Abby got the start it was looking for. Max Sasson with a power play goal. So bookending this game, open the scoring on the power play. They finish it out on the power play as well. But 4.5 minutes into the game, rebound off to the side of the net. And there's Sasson with his 5th of the postseason. The lead didn't last long. Mackenzie Entwistle off the rush, a snapshot that beats Artur Silovs, ties the game at 1. And then we talked about that buzzer beater right at the end of the first period. And I don't know about you, Tyson, but I wondered if that was going to be the dagger. And again, it's the end of the first. There's lots of time. We've seen this Abbotsford team resilient, respond to all sorts of adversity. Add this one to the list here. But as time's winding down, Abbotsford's got the puck in the neutral zone in full control. Get it deep, run the clock, and go put your feet up in the locker room for 20 minutes. Instead, turn the puck over. And then for whatever reason, a bunch of guys decide to, let's just get a line change in here. Opens up all kinds of ice and space. And it was Oliver Oculier who ends up beating Artur Silovs with a shot off the rush. I guess this is playoff hockey, is that, the mind sometimes does some weird things. But for that 10-second stretch there at the end of the first, Abbotsford just had to be a whole lot smarter on a bunch of different levels.
Absolutely. You weren't here for game 6, but that goal reminded me a lot of how the first period ended in game 6, where Sammy Blais thought he scored on the power play and didn't go in. They didn't follow up. They didn't tap it in. And then Texas came all the way back and they scored with under a minute left, or under 2 minutes left, I believe. But that, you just lose all your momentum now going into the locker room, and now you're all bummed because, hey, you thought you scored, and then now, you're trailing. And it's kind of the same thing. Like you said, what were they thinking? There was less than 10 seconds left. Why? I don't know who it was. We've been kind of talking about who it might have been, but dump the puck in there, dump the puck in the net, and then, or in the zone, let it go. And then you're pretty much walking away into the second period, or into the first intermission with a tie. But you turn the puck over at the blue line, and then your team decides to change. Why are they changing?
No idea.
What do you have to change for a 10-second shift?
What are you doing?
And then so much open ice for him to go just all alone and bury it and give him a lead with less than a second left.
Yeah. And then we said Justin sort of makes it a 3-1 hockey game. Not looking great for Abbotsford, but all the credit in the world to not just Matty Malhotra, but the guys on the ice are the ones that get the job done. We talked about the Smith goal that gets them back. I think it allowed them to exhale and realize, hey, it's a one-goal game. Half the game remaining. Let's go. It's 3-2 after 2. Statistically, that the team that has a lead going to the third more often than not wins. But we saw Abbotsford turn that sixth game, the elimination game against Texas, on its ear in the third period. They weren't as good in this third period. I was watching from afar as you guys were holding down the fort here, but I thought their third period was the best of the 3 in regulation. Ty Mueller with his third, a nice tip in front after play by Tristan Nielsen. I thought Nielsen had a strong third period. He had that chance when he put his shoulder down, drove to the front of the net 3 minutes into the third period, sort of showed that he was into it. And at 8:14, it's Ty Mueller with his third of the postseason, tied the game. Nothing doing in overtime, although the shots were 16-3, including a couple of Charlotte power plays in that first overtime. So, an arty party for sure in overtime number 1. And then, as we said, it is Danil Klimovich. After the controversy, Klimovich is third from Sasson. 10:25 on the power play. That is it. They're heading home, well, to their hotel. They'll be back on Sunday afternoon for game 2 of this series. All right, we'll get more thoughts on this game as we work our way through. Going to get Dave Hall into the mix here momentarily. Dave's a presentation of the Pacific Toyota dealers, and they want to tell you about the Toyota BZ4X. You may have heard about this. It's 100% electric, backed by the peace of mind of knowing that it's a Toyota, and the spark of joy you get when you pass a gas station knowing that you don't have to stop. There's the added perk of being able to access HOV lanes when driving an EV, even when you're alone in the vehicle. And you've heard me tell you all about the cargo capacity, all of the sports gear, the camping gear, golf clubs, all of it, plus the kids, their friends, dogs, you name it. Get it all in the cargo space of the BZ4X. And it can handle any terrain, so it can take you from the city to the slopes or wherever your life takes you. And when you choose the BZ4X, you can get a $5,000 incentive. And right now, you can finance a 2025 BZ4X LE all-wheel drive from 0.9% APR for 36 months. Visit shoptoyota.ca or your local Pacific Toyota dealer today. Jeff and Tyson here in studio, and Dave Hall is joining us remotely, and there he is, the man in the middle, if you're watching this on the live stream. And we all sort of match, going with the earth tones theme here.
Oh, yeah.
Blue, no green, except in the backdrop. But what a night, Dave. I mean, we have worked a lot of these games through the playoffs. This is 19 now for Abbotsford, and there have been some other wild ones, some exciting ones. I don't know that there has been one with as many storylines as this game had tonight.
No, like what just happened? That may have been the most impressive victory we've seen. Like that you can't really script a more flip-flopped game. Like that was the first 2 periods, specifically their second, which is different from what we've been talking about for the last 2 months. Typically it's their first period, but I thought that second period was probably their worst period of the entire playoff run. I don't think that's too much of a hot take there. There was some bad stuff happening. You guys already talked pretty in depth about that second goal late of the first, and so there was just so much to not like, including Shilov's 3 long goals there. It just he was almost the reason why you thought they were going to lose, and then he goes out and make 51 saves, and like Tristan Nielsen, who I thought was probably one of their poorer forwards of the first 2 periods, ends up being one of the biggest beasts in the third period. It was just one of those games where, like I said, it was just one of the most impressive wins you can think of. It just seemed to flip-flop all night, which is good for us. But it just seems like one of those games where you sneak out the back door, you chuckle with everyone, all your friends, and then you never come back.
Well, and they did this to Texas a few times as well. When I think of the 1-0 overtime, where I think Texas, and I'm sure Charlotte tonight, is thinking like better team territorially, all sorts of opportunities, and yet down 1-0 in this series.
Yeah, exactly. It's like I said, it's just one of those games where you definitely stole it. You can hang your head high on the fact that you just stole a game, and now you know what you're dealing with. Obviously, this is the first time that these teams have faced each other, so you never know what you're going to get. But you got to give credit to the Abbotsford Canucks too, because you could tell, especially in that second overtime, they were a little sluggish there, and that big rest from Charlotte was definitely evident going that long of a stretch. So I guess we kind of have to give most of the credit to Shilovs because he really held the fort there, but you got to give the whole team credit for, standing on their heads and stealing win. You got to steal a game at some point, and so it's a good thing to steal it with the first game, right?
Mm-hmm. So, like you said, first time we've seen Charlotte. I don't know how much on the East Coast you're watching of the American League, but what did you think of the Charlotte in their first game against the Canucks tonight?
Yeah, I thought I think they're interesting. I think they're definitely more of a team like Abbotsford in that with Texas, I found they're very top heavy where they have goal scorers that are going to beat you off the rush and, beat you with they've got some skill. Whereas Charlotte, I find it's more like Abbotsford where they're kind of running four lines that can all beat you. Yes, they've got some skilled players, of course, just much like Abbotsford, but it just seems like more of a cohesive group that's kind of beating you with all four of their lines. And so I think it's a good matchup. I think they also play a similar style where it's not so much that run and gun Texas Stars type game, which I think Abbotsford will appreciate a little more. Doesn't make for the most sexiest hockey as we saw tonight, but I think they're a little bit more in tune with how the Abbotsford Canucks play. So I think it's a good matchup for the Canucks, and winning game one is definitely a big bonus for them.
I also wanted to ask you about their speed because it really looked like Charlotte was blazing past Canucks defenders all night. They had multiple breakaway opportunities where they were just able to utilize their speed by getting past them. So how do you think the Canucks can match that, answer that, and minimize that?
Yeah, it's a great point, actually. It was a little bit uncharacteristic. Like we saw, of course, it was, I had to write a nice article about Kirill Kudryavtsev this morning, but I just felt like he was burnt quite a bit tonight. And, I think part of it was, I think there's a few things. First, as I just mentioned, they've played a lot of hockey and Charlotte's hasn't, and they're nice and rested. So you got to wonder if that plays into it. The ice was also terrible. You got on either side, if you made a little bit of a chip play and it was coming on the defender, it was hopping over sticks all day. So, every once in a while, Charlotte would get a nice little opportunity where it just hopped over a defensive stick. But I definitely think that's something to take in consideration. I don't know if that's something I'd be worried about going forward every game. Like that hasn't really been a case where every single one of their defenders gets burned. And looking at Charlotte, I don't know if they have per se any massive burners. So I want to credit it just to the fact that they've played a lot of hockey. They're the only team that's played this many rounds, and Charlotte's been rested for almost 2 weeks. So that's what I'm going to go with. We'll see if I'm wrong in game two rather, but that's what I'm going with for now.
Man, do they come as advertised though on the penalty kill? They are so aggressive, looking to take off. Now, I say that, and Abby ends up scoring twice in the power play, and not that the goals were a result of Charlotte being overly aggressive and blowing the zone, but they've clearly got that mindset of thinking offense, even though maybe they have to mind the shop a little bit more. Because special teams, in a double overtime win, Abby goes 2 for 7 on the power play. Power play didn't look great, and yet it scored twice, including the winner. So you'll take that and move on. But again, this penalty kill that's just been so good for most of the playoffs. I know Texas got to them a little bit, but 5 big kills for the Abbotsford Canucks, including 2 in the first overtime. PDG got called for the high stick on Carrick. That was an obvious penalty. The other one was a strange call on Nathan Smith out of the scrum and punches being thrown all over the place, but he did knock the guy's helmet off when it looked like maybe the scrum was sort of dying off a little bit, and I think that's why he got the gate there. Whatever the case, twice in overtime. So Charlotte will be kicking itself 0 for 5 in the power play. I'm sure that's an area that their power play, it is wild. They've scored 3 power play goals all play. I think they have 6 shorthanded goals and just 3 power play goals. So that's going to be a story to watch because Abbotsford, we know, did strike on the power play. Charlotte hasn't been able to get this power play going, and we'll see if that becomes a factor the deeper that this series goes on.
Yeah, it seems like special teams is going to play a major factor, and you're right. Abbotsford's going to have to adjust because even in the Texas game, they got burned a few times by getting caught a little low, and Texas kind of turning things over and going the other way. And tonight, I think I'm not sure if it was all 6 of them or all 5 of the power plays, however many Canucks were on. I'm pretty sure on every single one of them, they either got a clear-cut breakaway or at least a half breakaway. So you're right. They're going to have to make some big adjustments and really gut check that area. But at the same time, they can kind of play that to their advantage. Obviously, if the checkers are going to be super aggressive like that, if you can make some adjustments to where you can counter that, that could be a real nice counter. But I mean, special teams has been the conversation that we've talked about all playoffs, and this is obviously not going to be anything different. So, yeah, I couldn't believe it though, because obviously coming in with 6 shorthanded goals, we all knew that it was going to be a big thing, but I couldn't believe how aggressive they actually were and how they actually got amazing chances on almost every single one of their penalties. So good for them, I guess, but hopefully Abbotsford can adjust here.
I'm glad you brought up the ice conditions. Looked brutal. It sounded terrible. Again, it's mid-June in the South. But double overtime, you just wondered if that was going to play a factor. Was there going to be a bad hop, bad bounce, whatever? But think about game 2 is 4 p.m. local time, so a Sunday afternoon game there in Charlotte where the temps are up all weekend long. So we'll see what the ice does. It's the same for both teams, but that doesn't necessarily make it any better here. So I'm curious to see what the ice looks like on Sunday.
It's the same for both teams, but at the same time, like one team's used to that kind of muggy weather, right? Like it's definitely something. I know for you know, it takes an adjustment to kind of adjust to that muggy weather. Oh, we've got 2 Tysons here.
Wow.
What up?
But yeah, sorry to cut you off there, Tyson.
No worries. I just kind of wanted to ask you about Sammy Blais. So he had a 6-game streak where he was held pointless. Don't really know where his game went. He was so good in the first 2 series, so physical. Then it kind of tapered off. And then now tonight, he just looked like a different player. He had so many toe drags. He got a couple points, I believe. So what did you see out of him that, especially in these last 2 games where he has 2 points now, to get back to that level that he was in the first round?
Yeah, it's interesting, right? Like you're right. In the first 2 rounds, I mean, for my money, he was their best player. He was leading the team in points, but even beyond that, he was just their clear best player. And you know, I was tooting his horn all playoffs up to that point, saying he deserves this play. And then all of a sudden, it just seemed like he just let it get away from him. I guess, you know, what it was, what I assume was it was the aggressive physical nature of that third round against Colorado, which, you know, was a bit of a bruise fest. So it just seems like he just kind of lost his head a little bit. You know, he was, it just seemed like he was getting too into the physicality, which is great, but he was just taking it to a whole nother level. And it just seemed like he just lost his game, you know, but now it seems like he's kind of reeled it in. He even got, we don't know if it's a healthy scratch, but I kind of feel like that might have been a Manny Malhotra reset game, which we've seen so often in this playoffs. So welcome back, Jeff. And so
I'm back.
It just seemed like, you know, he took a reset. Obviously, he must have had a conversation with the coaching staff and, you know, kind of reeled it in a little bit. And we're seeing what he can do, and, you know, when he's on his game and not trying to just focus on, you know, that rough and tumble game. So he still adds that, but, you know, as we've seen before, he can add that you know, that offensive element. That's why he's been in the NHL. He's a Stanley Cup, you know, winner for a reason. So yeah, I just think he just needs to keep to his game and just stay out of that physicality stuff.
If I had really been sharp, now I've been away for a little while, but I would have come back with like a full costume change there and, you know, blown everybody's mind. Whatever the case, technical difficulties, I think, are behind us. Just want to ask you about, look, Linus Karlsson's been terrific. He's been their best scorer throughout the playoffs. Guy is allowed the odd off night. We've done this in the past, though. They just beat the Charlotte Checkers in the first game of the AHL final with next to nothing from Linus Karlsson. He did draw a penalty in the third period, but really nothing from Archie Bains either. Like, you know that both those guys have more to give. Archie's been playing well late in the Texas series. I almost look at that as a positive. Like, they get away with this one, and you have to think that those guys will be able to leave their imprint on this series before all is said and done.
Exactly. As we kind of mentioned earlier, like the thing about Abbotsford, it's a full team effort. And so it's a nice problem to have where you can rely on other guys on every other night to kind of figure it out. And you're right. Linus Karlsson, for my money, was, I mean, other than the one nice play that he made to find Klimovich in the first overtime there, where Klimovich rang it off the iron, he dug deep in the forecheck and, poked it out to him. But aside from that, he was relatively unnoticeable. I just didn't, you didn't hear Klimovich's name often. It was the same with Jesse Puljujarvi on the other side, to be honest. He had a very quiet night.
Yep.
But it's just one of those things where, and with Arshdeep, I know you were away for the last couple shows, Jeff, but it's funny because you and I had been talking about how we want to see so much more from him, and he delivered. At the tail end of that Texas series, he took over, in my opinion, of that series. He once he scored that first goal, the monkey was off his back and he went flying. And so, yeah, I mean, like I said, it's one of those things where it's a nice problem to have, where your top two, quote unquote, top two best players take the night off, and your depth gets it done. So, it's a credit to their full team effort. But definitely want to see more from them for the rest of the series, and I'm sure at some point we will.
All right, Jeff, I got to ask. Everybody wants to know. Everybody wants to talk about Jonathan Lekkerimäki and why he's not in the lineup.
Okay.
It kind of looked like for a little bit that he might be getting in if they lost. I don't know, but Manny switched up his lines. He put Tristan Nielsen up there in Klimovich's spot. Klimovich kind of went down to the fourth line. So it was kind of all looking like, okay, maybe we're primed to see Lekkerimäki, but then the Klim Reaper strikes again in double overtime. So what are you expecting? Are we waiting again, or do you think you'll get in for game 2?
Well, you kind of nailed it there. I agree with you. I think now that Klimovich scored that goal, I think you have to let him ride that high. I mean, his celebration says it all. He's stoked to score that goals, and that's the kind of player Klimovich is. He rides off that fuse, and he's coming in stoked on next game. So I think you kind of have to ride him out, even though I would have said something completely different if he didn't score this goal that we're seeing on the screen right now. But I think now that he scored that, I think you have to let him in. And the issue is, if you're going to have him in, I've said this many times again, you have to have him in the top 6, or else there's just no use of having Danila Klimovich in the lineup. So I think if from what we've gathered from the lineup so far, I think that probably means Lekkerimäki is probably sitting on the bench for another game.
I would think so too. I unless there are injuries that came out of this, or fatigue and dehydration, because it is a quick turnaround on Sunday afternoon. But if everybody's healthy and ready to go, I can't see Manny tinkering with a winning lineup. He didn't after the Texas elimination game, and these guys went out there, gutted it out, and they earned the victory. And so I think you reward that same crew. Again, not there on scene to know, but my guess is after going 4.5 periods in this one and a Sunday afternoon game, I doubt they practice on Saturday, and then the early start, they probably don't have a morning skate. So the next time these guys hit the ice, very well, maybe for the warm-up on Sunday before game 2 at Bojangles Coliseum. I had to make sure I got at least one mention in there. Look, we're looking forward to the Farmies. I know that you probably have some of it done, but we'll let you go and complete. I can't wait to read your full recap with video of everything. I think we covered off a lot of it here on the show, but if we missed anything, I'm sure you'll have it in the Farmies. And then maybe you just go for a long walk and get some fresh air after
I don't even know where to start.
Well,
it just seemed like such a dud game, and then all of a sudden it just turned into one of the wackiest ones ever. By the way, I don't mean to just hijack this, but can we talk about that Ty Mueller goal? I'm going to say Ty Mueller goal, the face-off. Has anyone ever seen that before? I mean, that's...
No. As I said, I've covered this game for a long time. I've seen a lot of things, but... And again, we're watching the replay, and I look at the referee in the corner there. Is his job not to assess that everybody is in position and ready for a fair face-off? And
he's facing that way. He's facing the face-off. Like, how do you not see that Seelovs has his back to the face-off?
The only thing that I wonder is, it's very rare for goals to be turned off or turned around in the American League. I'm wondering, although I don't think this is the right call, I've never seen this before. They did drop the puck. I mean, regardless, they did drop it. I'll just say I was shocked that it turned over, to be honest, just because I don't know if there is a rule on what just happened.
Well, I'm curious to see what the head coach of the Charlotte Checkers and some of his players have to say about that one. Obviously, they were frustrated in the moment. But the game goes on, and they had other opportunities to win. They didn't, and then Abby does midway through that second overtime. So Yeah, storylines for days, as we said. We'll all take a breath here. We'll let you go and get to work
Thanks.
on the Farmies, Dave, but we'll be back to do it on Sunday, and let's see what Sunday delivers. I can't imagine it'll be as much drama as this one, but you never know. That's why they play the games. Great work as always here, and great work at Canucks Army. We will all be checking out the Farmies a little bit later on.
All right, thanks, guys. Have a good night.
There you go. Dave Hall is stepping away. I'm going to stay here, I think. I hope. Fingers crossed. Not really sure what happened there. We had a camera switch in the meantime, but nice work holding down the fort as you did with Irf while I was away. We should mention, and this is impressive stuff too, Abbotsford has won the opener in all 5 of its playoff series.
Mm-hmm. They've never trailed.
Started on the road in Colorado, started on the road here in Charlotte. They got the wins in those games. Or I guess they didn't start on the road against Colorado, did they?
They started at home.
At home, and then that's right. So, but yeah, 5 for 5, and there's no series beyond this one. So, and to your point, have never trailed, knock on wood, at any point in a playoff series, 19 games in. So pretty impressive stuff from the Abbotsford Canucks, and certainly it was impressive to erase a 3-1 deficit, come all the way back and win this hockey game. Let's get to the 3-star selection and the stat that stands out. 3 stars are brought to you by Greta Bar YVR. We tell you on every episode what a great place Greta is to watch sports on all the big screens, but they also want you to know that they're big on team building and summer social events. So if you're looking to get your group out of the office for some corporate fun, or you're looking for a place for your ball team to gather, consider Greta. For all the arcade games, the street food menu, weekly drink specials, Greta Bar, the place to be, 50 West Cordova. Greta Bar, let the games begin. All right, 3 stars in the building, and the 3 stars here on Rink Wide are the same. That doesn't happen all the time. But we're going with the game winner, Danila Klimovic. He plays the hero, so he gets first star nod. Hit the post in the first overtime as well. Didn't do a ton otherwise, but you win a double overtime to kick off the Calder Cup final. Yeah, you're right. You're going to be star number 1. So there he is, Danila Klimovic. Artur Silovs, and I agree. Like, I didn't love the goals that he gave up in the run of play, but when you're down 3-1 and you can't afford to give up the next one, and he didn't, and locked it down from that point on, and ends up facing 54 shots on the night, stops 51 of them. He worked his way into 3-star consideration, and so there he is, star number 2. Justin Sordoff, I thought, without a doubt, was dangerous just about every shift. His speed was noticeable. You can see why the Florida Panthers used a first-round pick on him. 8 shots on goal. He scored. He had that short-handed breakaway as well at 3-2, and Artur Silovs got the tip of the right pad out there, the skate to make the save. And again, a massive stop to keep Abbotsford in that hockey game that ultimately they're able to come back and win. So sort of was dangerous. And he's a guy to keep an eye on as this series moves along. So there are your 3 stars, Danilo Klimovic, Artur Silovs, Justin Sordoff, 3 stars brought to you by Greta. Anybody else in your mind that you thought of that deserved honorable mention tonight?
I just wanted to kind of talk more. Well, Sammy Blais, he had a good game, but I did want to just talk more about Artur Silovs if we could.
Mm-hmm.
Like you said, didn't like the goals. I mean, they're from distance and they beat him high blocker twice, I believe, and high glove, I think the other one. So, I mean, that was kind of some of his flaws when he was in the NHL, like in the playoffs. You would always see, well, you just shoot high on Silovs, high glove usually, but this time it was high blocker. It's going to go in. But just the way that he was able to keep calm, cool, and collected as he has the entire postseason and be the team's best player when he needed to be to keep them in that game. Finishing with a .944 save percentage, I didn't have that on my bingo card after what I saw after the 3 goals.
I'm glad you mentioned Sammy Blais as well. I mean, he seems to be a talking point after just about every game. Got off to that incredible start. Hasn't scored since the opening round against Tucson. That feels like about 6 lifetimes ago. I took a vacation and came back, and he still hasn't scored a goal. But the good Sammy Blais showed up. We saw at times in the Colorado series, emotions got the better of him. He kind of lost the script a little bit. 2 primary assists. I thought he was aggressive. I mean, that's how he has to play when he's at the top of his game. 3 shots on goal. He hit a post in the second period on a power play as well. So, I think that's a really good start and a promising start for Sammy Blais to this series. back on that line with Nate Smith and Jujhar Khaira and big bodies. It's the veteran guys that have been through the battles over the years. And we'll see what role they play as this series moves along. So, yes, Sammy Blais, a couple of points. And Max Sasson with a goal gets the assist on the game winner as well. They've added an assist to Max Sasson, so a 2-point night for Max, who skates miles every time out. He's always using his speed to his advantage. And he had 5 shots on goal, so a nice night there. I just come back quickly, and we'll get to our stat that stands out momentarily. We're not there just yet, but this one kind of stands out. I talked to Dave at the end. Linus Karlsson had 1 shot on goal. Arshdeep Bains didn't have any. Those are your 2 leading scorers. You do need more. They have to be involved. I'm not saying that they've got to, have 3-point nights, but ultimately, across the board, Abbotsford has to put the puck on the net a little bit more. You can't lean. I know they've leaned on Artur Silovs through this entire playoffs, but it reminded me of watching the LA Kings and the Edmonton Oilers in the opening round in overtime. Like, you can't win the game 3-3. And I kept thinking to myself, like, got to put a puck on net. And ultimately, look what happens. It wasn't a fancy play. It wasn't a pretty play. It was Klimovich walking off the out of the left corner, fires a puck and beats Kaapo Kähkönen. And that turned out to be the winner. Just the 3rd shot for Abbotsford in double overtime. And again, they got a shot 21-11 through a period and a half of overtime. So I'm sure Manny will want to see his team more offensive zone pressure. And this is a massive special teams, 7 power plays one way and 5 the other. I would think both teams will want to see a little more discipline, so maybe more 5-on-5 play. But if there is more 5-on-5, Abbotsford is going to have to find a way to spend more time in the offensive zone, wear down this Charlotte team, and ultimately generate some more shots, because it was a lot of one and done. It was a lot of high flips. It was a lot of chip it in and change. I don't know that that's necessarily a winning formula over the course of what could be a lengthy series.
Of course. And I just want to go back to what you were saying about Karlsson and Bains. I'm going to give them a little bit of a break because they pretty much carried the team against Texas. Like, they were the 2 best players outside Artur Silovs in that series. They were pretty much the only ones contributing at points. So I'll give them a little bit of a pass. And also, if you look at this, you're not going to win a lot of hockey games. I know they won tonight, but you're not going to win a lot of hockey games with 30 shots through 4.5 periods. So it's more than just them. There were a bunch of guys on here that had 0 shots. Phil DiGiuseppe led with 5. Sasson had 4. Mueller had 3. Blais had 3. Like, it's okay. I'll give them a 1-game break, but they better bounce back next game.
Well, and that's why I say I think you can spin it as a positive that you won without your best players dominating the way that they have at other times through these playoffs. You know that they're going to be heard from, but you just don't want it to go a whole lot longer than game number 2 before they leave some sort of imprint on these games. All right, now let's get to the stat that stands out. Stat that stands out is a presentation of our good friends at Resurrection Spirits, and they want us to talk about Bogey Juice. The U.S. Open is going on. Lots of guys could use some Bogey Juice there. Crafted with a tantalizing blend of crisp apple flavoring and kick and ginger for that refreshing zing, every shot of Bogey Juice, like a hole-in-one for your taste buds, sweetened to perfection with simple syrup, made even smoother with top-shelf vodka. It's the only juice that's guaranteed to make your golf buddies beam with envy despite the score it refers to. Check out bogeyjuice.com for more info and use the promo code SP15 for 15% off Bogey Juice product and merch. The Abbotsford Canucks win this hockey game, and in doing so, they get 4 goals on Kaapo Kähkönen, which is a feat because through the first 12 playoff games that Charlotte had played, the most they had given up was 3. The most that Kähkönen had given up 3. So Abbotsford did something that the best team in the regular season, Laval, they couldn't do. Other opponents on Charlotte's path to the final, they've all been held in check. So that's a really good start for Abbotsford to get 4 in the opener and know that they can't put pucks past a guy that has been every bit as good statistically as Artur Silovs has been in these playoffs. So, yeah, that's a stat that stands out right there. You see it on the screen. First time in 13 playoff games that both Kaapo Kähkönen and the Charlotte Checkers have allowed 4 goals.
Well, I wanted to talk about that because Charlotte, in the regular season, they allowed the 4th fewest goals in the regular season. In the playoffs, they were the least, I believe. They were the only team sub 2 goals against per game at 1.75. So the fact that Abbotsford, without their top 2 scorers contributing whatsoever into this game, were able to put up 4 goals, it's really impressive in my book.
A super chat coming in from Nux for Cups says, with 2 more wins, Abby will clinch the most wins in the playoffs, regardless of who wins the series. Yeah, they don't give out a trophy, though. Like, if they only get 2 more wins and Charlotte gets 4, like, I don't think Abbotsford's going to say, yeah, we have the most wins in the playoffs. That's not how hockey math works. So you're not wrong, but there's no prize for getting 2 more wins. They need 3 more, but they are off to a great start.
Hang the banner.
No, I don't want any part of hanging that banner. I want to see these guys hang the banner, the real banner, the Calder Cup Championship. But clearly, they're going to have their work cut out for them after watching 4.5 periods of hockey in this one. Dora says that faceoff isn't one bit controversial. The refs eventually made the right call. I'll agree with the second part. They got it right. But you try telling the Charlotte Checkers that that's not at all controversial. They thought they had won. They hadn't. Play on. I'm saying the refs got it right. I'm agreeing with you there. But as you pointed out, linesman drops the puck. Like, that feels like in some ways it was, a live grenade at that point, one that exploded in the back of the Canucks net. But doesn't matter now. They dodged that bullet. Steven says, watching the OT winner back, I had to go back and watch the Charlotte feed. Play-by-play was choked. And he says, LOL, that the clearly legal face-off goal was called back. And then he's got a bunch of laughy emojis as well. So, as we said, I mean, this was a night of twists and turns and close calls and, some sort of heart in the throat with penalties in overtime and having to dodge Abbotsford's penalty kill has been so remarkably good and was again here. And I know there was a little blip against Texas where I thought, okay, maybe Texas has found something that they think they can exploit here. But Abby was back on top. And obviously you need your goaltender to be your best penalty killer. Artur Silovs was that. But giving up 2 power plays in the first overtime, again, sort of goes against the script that you want to follow or a blueprint that you want to follow. But you can just see how confident they are. It's Brisebois, it's Mancini, Wu, those are the guys on the back end doing a lot of the heavy lifting up front. Chase Waters and Ty Mueller a rookie gets thrown into these high leverage situations, and all he does is answer the bell. Like he's had a really impressive, not only rookie season that resulted in a cup of coffee with the Vancouver Canucks, but he's looked really good here in the playoffs and gets the tying goal. Credit to everybody involved in the Canucks penalty kill.
I'm not trying to poo-poo on the parade here, but it also kind of helps when Charlotte's power play's clicking at 7% coming into the game.
Without a doubt. But the more you give a team like that, at some point you think they're going to sort it out. They're going to get the look they're looking for. And I agree with Dave. Like, Jesse Puljujärvi, obviously a notable name from his time in the National Hockey League and his draft status. He had that breakaway early in the hockey game, but really after that, didn't notice him an awful lot. So, John Leonard is their leading scorer. Doesn't have a dazzling total, but he is their leading scorer and is dangerous on the penalty kill. The Canucks managed to keep him off the score sheet. So, they did a pretty good job overall against those top guns on the Texas team in the last round. And for one night at the very least, keeping Charlotte's top scorer off the score sheet, that's a feather in the cap of the Canucks defensively.
He had 36 goals last season, in the regular season. He finished in a tie for second, only 3, I believe, behind Blumel from last series. So It was impressive. I don't know about you, but in that overtime, Silovs was kind of going back and forth, and Leonard had a shot wide open right in the face-off circle. I thought he was going to bury it.
He probably did too. And look, there were chances. So we talked about Klimovich hit a post, Sammy Blais hit a post, but Charlotte had at least one post during this hockey game. Of course they did. Again, can't sort of keep track of everything that went on. Wanted to mention as well, 8,667. That's a sellout at Bojangles. So good crowd on hand there. Was surprised. It looked like there were some empty seats as overtime went along, and I was thinking, like, it's not that late. It's 11 o'clock local, but this is the championship series. Whatever the case, their building holds a few more than the Abbotsford Center, but it'll be packed. Abby has wrestled home ice advantage. They had to get one win in Charlotte to win this series. I always think, why not just barge in the front door and punch the home ice team right in the nose on night number 1 and take care of that. And now there's nothing that says that Charlotte won't find a way to get a win in Abbotsford, but right now, mission accomplished at the very least by ensuring the split of these first 2 games. And now, what an opportunity on Father's Day Sunday afternoon to wrestle a second straight victory and haul home up 2-0. Don't want to get ahead of myself here, but that's what this win does tonight. Is it puts Abbotsford in position. It gives them this opportunity to get the job done and get halfway to the finish line by mid-afternoon on Sunday.
It's a big opportunity. Very big opportunity. I remember the first 3 series. Seelov's pretty brutal in game 2s. I think his goals against average was above 5 and his save percentage was under 800. But he nixed that last game 2 against the Texas Stars when they won 1-0 in a shutout. So it's not a theory anymore. So hopefully we get the same Seelovs as we got tonight, but maybe a little bit earlier if we could. Maybe he can stop those long distance shots. But if it's an impressive opportunity. With the chance to go back to your barn for 3 games, and you only need to win 2 if you get the one in game 2. I do expect Charlotte to kind of be a little pissed off with how that game ended.
For sure.
I mean, they probably deserve to win if you're looking at the score sheet, but
no, they'll have a chip on their shoulder, I would imagine. But if Artur Silovs comes out and says it happened on my watch again, there's not a lot they can do about it. So you hope that Artur Silovs is locked in and in that groove again. And again, some of Abbotsford's better players are just a little more prominent. Like the formula is there for them to get the win on Sunday afternoon as well. But that is ultimately why they play the games.
Jeff, I got a question for you here.
I'm
sitting in Irf's chair.
Yep.
Filling in for Irf tonight. He asks you after every game, what'd you like? What'd you hate?
I like the resolve at 3-1 that these guys, and they've done this throughout the playoffs and really down the stretch on that win streak as well. Like they don't go quietly. There isn't any quit in this Abbotsford group. So I like that. We talked about some of the individuals we liked. They're now 4-2 in overtime. Abbotsford just looks comfortable in these tight games. I know that they were outplayed territorially, but even when they're back on their heels a little bit, they still seem, and some of that has to be the belief in Artur Silovs that he's going to keep making saves until they can get the job done. So, I just like the resolve. I like the grit that they showed in this one. I like the end result, obviously, to get a 1-0 lead. What I didn't like, Carlson and Baines need to see a little bit more there. Didn't like the referee that allowed that puck to be dropped when he could clearly see that Artur Silovs was turned around and was not ready to go. And I didn't love the goals that got past Silovs, but I'm going to focus more on the saves that he made after he gave up 3 and wasn't going to give up a 4th one. So, there's a lot to like. I mean, to get this deep into the playoffs, Sunday will be their 20th game on this playoff run, which is incredible. And incredible that we've had 20 games to work here on Rink Wide. I see in the chat, Conversation was saying that he was surprised that we had as many viewers as we did. I said no offense to the host, but to have the audience that we do for an AHL playoff game says something about hockey fans here. Yeah, that they're invested in what's going on, whether it's the NHL or at the AHL level. And this has been a fun run. There's been storylines, there's been heroes, lots to talk about. Look, we took a bit of a flyer at the start, and we thought, why not? A lot of these guys that touched NHL ice for the Vancouver Canucks are now going to, embark on this playoff run. Let's see, and we weren't ready to shut down Rink Wide, so we jumped in. We didn't ever think we'd get 20 games out of it. Hell, I planned a holiday. I went away and came back, and they're still playing, but I'm not surprised at least. And we thank everybody. I mean, absolutely. We wouldn't do it if there wasn't an audience, and I think it was great that Flow Hockey, made this free tonight so people could see. And what a night if people were able to watch and stream it and hung with this thing. Greg in the chat says, J-Pat looks so cozy in that hoodie. It is one of my favorites, and it is pretty soft.
It looks warm.
I know Big Sven liked the maroon hoodie. It'll make an appearance at some point, I would imagine, as this series goes along. So, I appreciate the fashion comments. We try to keep it pretty simple here on Rink Wide, fairly casual. Whatever the case, we feel good. I would imagine Abbotsford feels pretty good, and Canuck fans should feel pretty good because the Abbotsford Canucks get the job done and take first blood here in this Calder Cup final. Now, Sunday afternoon, 1 o'clock, not an ideal start time. People will be doing Father's Day brunches. The U.S. Open final round is going to be going on, but we are committed to the cause here. We'll be here watching, and at the final buzzer, whether that's after 60 minutes or 80 minutes or 90 minutes and 25 seconds like this one, we'll be going strong on Rink Wide. So hopefully people can carve out a little bit of time to join us for our next episode of Rink Wide as well. We're not done yet. Usually we take a look around the American Hockey League playoffs. Well, guess what? There's nothing else to look at. This is it.
We just watched it.
This is the championship series. That said, usually our AHL out-of-town scoreboard is brought to you by the Vancouver Canadians. Now, there's a big weekend of baseball out at the Nat. The red-hot Vancouver Canadians are at home both Saturday and Sunday afternoon. See what they did this afternoon? They beat Spokane 15-0 for their 8th straight win. Like, these guys are dialed in. And on Saturday, it's Blue Jays Day at the ballpark. Sunday, it's Father's Day. You can take Dad to the baseball game for a White Spot Family Fun Sunday. Dad'll get a kick out of watching the kids run the bases after the ball game. And for the full game schedule, promo schedule, and for tickets, check out CanadiansBaseball.com. So the Abbotsford Canucks dispatched Tucson in the first round, then took care of Coachella Valley, and after that it was Colorado, the only team that finished ahead of them in the Pacific Division. That one went down to the wire. After that, it was Texas in round 4 to punch their ticket here to the Calder Cup final, and now they're up 1-0 after Danila Klimovic's double overtime game winner on the power play, walked out of the corner and snapped it home. 10:25 of the second overtime period. That was the game winner, and Abby up 1-0 now in this series. So as hockey goes, not a ton of time to turn around. Not the conventional 2 full days off because, again, this is a 4 o'clock start local time on Sunday, so 1 p.m. Pacific. And we'll see. We'll see if it looks and it feels like a matinee. But there's going to be some desperation, certainly on the part of the Charlotte Checker. They don't want any part of coming back to Abbotsford in a 2-0 hole. And as we said, opportunity really knocking now from NML Holters Club.
It'd be a big hole to climb out of for Charlotte. Definitely, hey, game 2 is going to be tough. All these games are going to be tough. It's the final. You're going up against a team that is more rested, just not even the entire postseason, but even the 10 days they had off. And me and Irv talked about this rest versus rust angle, and I sided with rust. Obviously, that's how it came out, but I don't know. I thought rest was going to prevail for a lot of the game. They almost doubled Abbotsford in shots. So I expect Charlotte's best game is probably going to be in game 2.
It sort of feels like it has to be. And again, that's the importance of putting the pressure right off the hop. Like in the early rounds against Tucson, you take the opener, all of a sudden Tucson's facing elimination in game 2. That's the nature of the beast in a short series. This is a best of 7. So, Charlotte, look, if anybody knows, it's a Vancouver fan base that knows that 2-0 does not mean series is done over and out, present the hardware. But boy, if Abby could come out of this up 2-0, especially against a Charlotte team that, as we said, had won 8 in a row. They'd won 5 straight on home ice, and they played well enough to win, but they didn't. And so we'll see if that strengthens their resolve. We all know that Abbotsford can play better. We'll see if they do play better on Sunday. And again, we'll be here to document it all. Irf is going to be back with me on Sunday, but I know that we're going to be talking to you as this series unfolds. So looking forward to it, and our first chance to work together. I know you were here in studio just before holidays observing, but
just watching you.
Thanks so much for sitting in. And I was away, but I was keeping tabs on what was going on. I wasn't watching the full games, but was certainly making sure that things were up and running on Rink Wide, and looked like you guys did a terrific job. And so thank you for that, and thank you for this one tonight.
Of course, thank you. I'll come back whenever you'll have me.
Jeff. Absolutely. We will certainly find opportunities to get Tyson Cole back into that chair here on Rink Wide. 4-3 the final. Max Sasson, Nate Smith, Ty Mueller, and Danila Klimovich. The goal scorers for the Abbotsford Canucks: Mackenzie Entwistle, Oliver Ocular, and Justin Sordiff with the goals for Charlotte. Artur Silov's 51 saves on 54 shots, and it took 2 overtimes, but Abby gets the job done, up 1-0 in this best-of-7 series. Our thanks to Jake Lazar, technical producer. We kept him on his toes as this show rolled along. Irf's going to be here in studio with me on Sunday, and we'll have some more fun then. And that'll be the next time that we deliver an episode of Rink Wide.